Let's talk NBA, Logan, because the NBA has always been a Christmas holiday, and I personally didn't love the NFL sticking 3 games on that Monday. That felt like a bit of an overreach, a bit of the greedy NFL. They want to have a game every day. They got to have Saturday games and Thursday games. Settle down a bit, Goodell. This is an NBA day, and we got the ultimate classic NBA matchup as one of the fun games of the day. Lakers-Celtics, Logan, and the Celtics end up winning this one. Every single starter of theirs yesterday scored 18-plus points. They combined for 108, and I sort of shared my thoughts on this on Twitter yesterday. But where do you think this Celtics starting 5 ranks among just the best in the NBA in recent memory?
All right, man, I don't mean to be like a Debbie Downer, but the first one that I came to was the Denver Nuggets of last year, the Denver Nuggets of this year, if I'm being honest.
Agreed.
I think the top-level talent that you have there in Jokic and Murray, the pairing, those two fit together like a glove. Shout out Ace Ventura. They work so well together. The isotoner gloves, man, didn't fit. They fit together like a glove. They're unstoppable when it comes to in the clutch. All of those pieces fit together so well. And again, I think that if you're looking at individual talent, those guys probably don't stack, but the way they fit together, I think, works. And you've got 3 all-star caliber players. The distinction that Boston has is they legitimately do have 5 all-star caliber players in their starting 5. And I've heard a lot of traction for Derek White to get some all-star votes.
Yeah.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it. You know, I can see a case. I probably wouldn't do it, but I don't hate the take. He's been playing his ass off. Like, Tatum, Brown, KP, Holiday, Derek White. That is a disgusting 5 to trot out. And if you look before this season and before last year, if we're not counting the Nuggets, I mean, the first team that I think of is probably the 2019 Raptors and then the Warriors preceding them. And those are loaded groups, hallowed groups to be a part of. When you're talking about the depth that Raptors team had with Lowry, with Kawhi, with Gasol, Siakam, Van Vliet, Anunoby, the Warriors, Curry, Thompson, Durant, Draymond, loaded. I think you're looking at that kind of group here, and they've been producing, man. This is one of the best regular season teams that I can recall in recent memory.
Yeah, they're unbelievable. And I do think it's important that we have a conversation like this, Logan, just because I felt like after the last time we talked about the Celtics, a lot of people came away with the impression that we were being very negative about the team, really just because we framed it as, are they the title favorite? And I said, no, I think that they are my number 2 title favorite because they are dealing with really great competition in Denver. I think if we do get that finals matchup, it will be one of the best in the last decade. I think that it will be 2 of the strongest teams to make the finals and face each other. Like, I think so highly of both of these teams. And I absolutely think that this is one of the best starting 5s in recent memory of this century. In 282 minutes in which that entire starting 5 is played together, Logan, they have a plus 19.5 net rating this year. A 122 offensive rating, best in the league, 102 defensive rating, by far best in the league. Everything just works here. Now, I do agree with you. I think the Nuggets group is even a bit more perfectly complementary, and they do have the advantage of having the overwhelming best player in a theoretical series between these two. But I do think there is a lot of complementary stuff in Boston as well, on top of the elite talent. You have the 2 elite defensive guards in Derek White and Drew Holiday, both of whom are big, are exceptionally versatile. Derek White, one of the best shot-blocking guards in the league, capable of really affecting people with those rear-view contests. Drew Holiday, maybe the best guard in the league in terms of guarding bigs. His matchup versatility is just obscene. And then those guys are both hitting 42% of their threes. They're very skilled offensively. They're plus playmakers, but they're more than happy to settle into being a 4th or 5th option. That's like the rare sort of perfect complementary backcourt that you could have for your 2 scoring wings who are strong, who are athletic, who are skilled, who can operate on or off ball. And then you have a 5 who's an elite shooter, protects the rim really well, and can cook mismatches. Like, you can have questions about, okay, are Tatum and Brown perfect enough to be considered in the upper echelons of like the top 2 guys on the great teams in recent memory, right? Can they be too inconsistent with their shot selection and their playmaking? Questions like that are fair to ask. They're obviously really good, but we're talking about special conversations. But the 3rd through 5th options are perfect. I think they have 5 top 40-ish, definitely top 50 players when you're talking not about raw production, not about maybe the ability to carry a team to mediocrity if you made them the guy, but to play winning basketball. Those complementary two-way play finishing, spacing skill sets that we're talking about with all of these guys, the playmaking from the guards. I don't think that has happened all century. That sort of like our 5th guy, whoever it may be, it changes game to game, is this sort of star or just sub all-star level. So to me, the other candidates, Logan, I mean, I would even maybe set the bar a little bit higher than where you had it. The 2019 Raptors are a good option, but I just think, like, if you look at Danny Green starting on that team, that version of Marc Gasol, like, the gap between Derek White or Drew Holiday and either of those guys, like, it's sizable, man. And that's not a diss on those guys. Marc Gasol played his role very, very well. We're just talking about, like, again, borderline all-star sort of players here. So, to me, I think the 2023 Nuggets are in those conversations. The 2017 Warriors, Zaza may have been way below these other guys, but it's probably the best big 4 that we've ever seen. I have the 2005 Suns, Nash, Joe Johnson, Q Rich, Sean Marion, Amare. That's just like unbelievable star-level talent with damn good offensive complementary players as your 4th and 5th options. Not as good defensively, though. This is a unit that is just clearly top 5 on both sides of the ball. I think the 04 Pistons probably are the closest in terms of our 3rd through 5th options are that good, because that was a 4 all-star sort of team. When I say 04, I'm just picking that year because that was when they won the title, but really all the way through 06, 07. Chauncey Rip, Tayshaun Sheed, Big Ben. That's unbelievable. And then I think you have the 01 Lakers because they have that overpowering duo, maybe the best we've ever seen with Kobe and Shaq at that level. And then you have Rick Fox and D. Fish who are playing really well. Horace Grant. It's a different path to getting there. If we're talking about the 3 through 5, they're not as strong, but I think that's offset by what you have from that duo. And then some others on my short list. You have a couple versions of the Spurs teams, just very balanced, very complimentary. The 02-03 Kings, Logan, I think Bibby, Christie, Peja, C-Web, Vlade. That's more like that Pistons team, honestly, in that you don't have the one superstar talent, but boy, all of those guys were so damn good at their roles. You have the Celtics 2008 to 2010 with their big 4. Perk, unfortunately, is a level far below who we're talking about. But my point is, all of these teams, I think the Celtics are certainly in the same tier as, and I think that there's probably only 4 or 5 starting 5s who I would take over them this century. I think that both they and Denver have put together unbelievable starting units, especially, and they deserve props from that. And the depth has been a little bit better. I mean,
I like that. I like
Brissett is going to
man.
play like this. Brissett's solid. You know, Hauser's been fine. Like, it's not a strength. You still have Horford, who's certainly not what he used to be, but as a 6th guy, pretty solid.
It is pretty in the weeds here. I never understood why the Kings didn't play Keita, man. We kept him in. They kept him in the G League with the Stockton Kings for 2 years. Never got any NBA burn, man. And I don't know. He's a good big body, man. Guys like that are valuable.
Okay, let me ask you this, and then we'll talk about the Lakers who lose this game and are on a bit of a skid as of late. We talked last week, and you said that Boston still was not clearly above LA in your contender hierarchy, or Milwaukee. I said I disagreed. I think they are clearly a top 2 team in basketball. After now the Celtics have won this game, what will it take for you for Boston to clearly pass LA in that hierarchy?
Yeah, and I would probably have – those are still my top 4, Denver, Boston, Milwaukee, LA. And I know LA's been on a skid. Hear me out. My order now probably goes Denver 1, Boston 2, LA 3, Milwaukee 4. It's going to take Jason Tatum reliably closing out games and finishing stuff off. And you texted me that you found a stat about Tatum in the clutch that kind of backed this up a little bit too after we did our last show. And I don't want to be too critical of Boston. Like you said, I really like Boston. They're probably my Eastern front runner right now. In the preseason, my NBA Finals prediction was Lakers-Celtics, what we got on Christmas Day. It's going to take them finishing off games just because I've seen it too many damn times for me to just pencil in Boston as a team that's going to slam the door. Great teams shut the door. They vice grip teams and they put them in a chokehold and they knock it out, man. That's what Denver does. Jokic and Murray go after teams and they finish them off in the fourth quarter. And again, I can't be critical of Boston because of what they've done offensively in recent memory. The last 5 games, they have an offensive rating of 131.5. That's insane.
Ridiculous.
Over the last 10, they have an offensive rating of 127.3. Consistently, throughout every second of the game, they're good. And then when it comes into the fourth quarter, that's when it gets tough. And I need to see that Tatum can do this. That is still my biggest flaw and concern to this team, man. Again, I think it's reared I don't think it's reared its head as much as it has in years previous, but that's still my biggest chief concern about this team is having a top dog that can end it, man, that killer.
Yeah. To me, that only becomes a difference maker when you are looking at the Nuggets because I view them as being on that level as a basketball team for 48 minutes.
So let me ask you this then. Do you even think, does anybody out east push Boston to 6 then in your eyes?
Yeah. I think Milwaukee's really good. I mean, I don't think that there's an insane gap between the two, but I do think Boston has more elite and very good basketball players, and that is an incredible, incredible weapon to have where you don't need Jalen Brown to be your second, third, or fourth best player in a game. You might not need it in a series, and that could still be giving you 23 a game on solid efficiency. It's just the all-around impact. Other guys are doing more with this next-level defensive stuff, with this playmaking, with this unbelievable shooting from beyond the arc. Like, nobody else is looking at that sort of depth of damn good top 50 sort of talents. That's, to me, the separator between them and the Lakers. They just have more awesome basketball players on both sides of the ball. Maybe I do trust a LeBron-led offense a little bit more in the clutch, but you got to get there, man. You got to get to the clutch against the Celtics. And over a 7-game series, that's tough to do with the Lakers' talent level with some of the inconsistency we've seen from their supporting guys. And I'm still a big Lakers dude. I think they're way better than their record. I do think they're in these top 5 contender conversations, but I just think Boston has separated. For what it's worth, the stat that you were mentioning, Tatum, 50th in clutch points per game this year on 31% shooting. Very bad. Now, I do think it's worth noting that that's a small sample size, but that will always be sort of the one thing that we flag with him and the Celtics as a whole. To me, it's just only going to matter against Denver, maybe Milwaukee, with how great the Celtics are right now. But the Lakers are 1-5 in their last 6 games. And overall, since they had that statement run in the in-season tournament, they just haven't been playing very well. How concerned are you about that skid, Logan, and what do you put that on?
I'm not super concerned about the Lakers in general, Carson, because they have LeBron James and Anthony Davis. I am concerned that does Darvin Ham know how to use this team?
Good question.
I don't. There's just some guys that just make personnel decisions that just make me scratch my head. Darvin Ham is one of them. They tried out a lineup of Cam Reddish, Jared Vanderbilt, Taurean Prince, LeBron James, and Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Great stat courtesy of Jovan Buha. Goes on with a friend of the show, host of Hoops Tonight, Jason Timpf. Periodically, they talk a lot of Lakers ball. The new Lakers starting 5 in 18 minutes of play, Carson, would rank dead last in offensive rating, defensive rating, net rating, effective field goal percentage, and true shooting if you extrapolated the 18-minute sample size we got from them to the league as a whole. They had an offensive rating of 105, worst in the league. Defensive rating of 125, worst in the league. -20 net rating, worst in the league. An effective field goal percentage of 40% and a true shooting percentage of 46.8%. Again, both marks worst in the league. Not where you want to be. That's none of the body language or stuff in the presser I get from LeBron is encouraging. LeBron comes out after this game. I don't think we're where we want to be to able to compete against good teams. This, to me, signals that there is a trade coming. Obviously, we've been talking about that this entire year with the Lakers, and I've heard DeJounte Murray as a trade target, and I've heard Zach LaVine as a trade target, and I don't like either of those. So my concern with the Lakers is, with Darvin Ham, does he know how to use this lineup? Like, you need Austin Reeves, buddy. I don't know how to explain this to you. You need Austin Reeves out there. Or D'Lo. You need an offensive player. I get what you were trying to do with Vando and Reddish. Completely suffocate them, turn defense into offense, get out in transition. It doesn't work. Basketball's just not like that. You need to play like – we need to upgrade to modern basketball. Spacing, guys who can drive the lane, just guys who are more skilled. And I know that Austin hasn't been as great as he once was, but last 15, he is still 16, 4, and 5 on 49, 39, 96 splits. He's a good offensive player. You need to play him. He just does so much more for your team than these guys, and he's so much more valuable in the half court. So I am worried about Darvin Ham figuring out this rotation, but there's still a lot of talent I like here, and I think that if they package D'Lo and can make a move for a good enough piece, I still can believe in this team, but I don't like the energy. I don't like the lineups they're trotting out here, and energy is the biggest thing to me, man. And I just don't get why we're toying with the lineup at this point in the season. I get that you hit a skid and you want to shake things up. This, to me, was not the move.
I'm with you here 100%. I don't get what Darvin Ham is doing with this lineup. I think that we have been saying repeatedly that D'Lo and Reeves have somewhat redundant skill sets. They do a lot of the same things well in terms of secondary shot creation, a bit of playmaking, and they struggle in some of the same areas, that being mostly the defensive end of the floor. And Reeves is a better version because he's going to give you a bit more effort. He's not as much of a ball stopper. He's better off ball. But regardless, moving to a lineup in which one of them is in the starting five and one of them is off the bench, that makes sense. But now sending both of them to the bench when, in the minutes they've played together, the Lakers have not been good. They have a negative 6.1 net rating when those two are on the floor at the same time. Makes no sense, especially because when I look at what this team needs from their supporting cast alongside LeBron and AD, I think absolutely you need athletes who can defend, high motor guys on the wings and the perimeter. But then you also probably need one other guy who can create his own shot and reliably knock down shots and run the offense for little stretches when LeBron and AD are sort of in that coasting mode that we know they like to lean on. And now you've not just eliminated those guys, like you have said, hey, why don't we play with the least offensive skill possible?
Yeah.
Reddish, Vando, and Prince are averaging a combined 19 points per game this season. And Torian doesn't belong right in the same tier because he has been a legitimately good shooter this year, and he is a legitimately good shooter. But in terms of creation off the bounce, I mean, he's giving you nothing. And in the two games that those guys have all started together, they've combined for 22 points per game. It just doesn't make sense. You've put an offensively deficient group around your two superstars now, and they've had to go to Cam Reddish actually handling the ball, and that's when things go south. This has been a big Cam Reddish redemption in LA because he has been so willing to embrace the defensive end of the floor where he can impact the game with his athleticism and physical tools and whatnot, and he can knock down enough open jumpers. But when you start asking him to run your offense at all, like, it's not good. It's not pretty. So they've just got less offensive pop here, and they've got worse offensive process because now instead of asking even D'Lo to run a couple possessions, it's dudes who just have no business doing that. So that doesn't make sense to me. It does make me question what Darvin Ham is thinking, what his level as an overall coach is. There's not a ton that he's done that has really impressed me. That is a red flag, and Reeves has been really good in December. He should be starting, period, point blank. The other thing is their defensive effort has just been poor. I mean, this is the Lakers' experience, right? They didn't care at all, and then they were dialed in for the in-season tournament, and now they're 23rd in defensive rating in this skid. They've had some embarrassing performances. That Spurs game, I thought, was just disgusting to watch. I mean, horrible effort in terms of rotations, closeouts, transition. They were just hemorrhaging wide open threes. I mean, San Antonio handled them, and that's a 4-win team that has proceeded to get blown out in every game that they've played since. And in this Boston game, I mean, it wasn't the most egregious, but they didn't defend well. I thought Boston was able to get out in transition more than LA was. Jalen Brown is really pushing there. And I did think the Celtics really effectively pinpointed whoever the smallest guy on the floor was, even if it was Cam Reddish. Like, Jalen and Jason are big and athletic dudes, and they're strong. And so they were attacking him in post-ups, or if it was D'Lo or Reeves, and either scoring, basically, or drawing help, creating an open look. So, I mean, it's an effort thing. It's a lineup thing. Those are things to which long-term there are solutions. They don't cause me to panic, and it's sort of what we're used to with this Lakers team in the regular season. So, no, I'm not panicking. They haven't moved meaningfully in terms of my overall view of them. And for what it's worth, the one positive thing is this hyper-assertive AD that we've seen offensively is a very good thing. I mean, starting with that Pacers game, he's averaging 33 and 13 on 65% true shooting. Doesn't make me think that we're going to see that AD just automatically over a full playoff run, but I'd rather see him than not see him.
100%. And that was the final aspect of this is that I was going to say is that it just sucks. Darvin Ham is legitimately And this team has legitimately wasted great AD games that it just hurts, man. You drop a 40 piece and you get dropped off by 10 when, again, if the Lakers had a different lineup out there, I think this is a much more competitive basketball game. It's, when you're building basketball teams or football teams, we tend to, for a while, there were so many super teams built, Carson, that we felt, we just have to get so much individual talent possible, right? And you see that with how the Phoenix Suns constructed their roster. Let's get Beal, let's get Book, let's KD, let's build a super team, and let's go to work. And we've seen that. You see the Lakers trying this, it's way more better building a lineup that is going to work together cohesively. Again, the Nuggets, it's easier said than done, but play guys that complement each other. Don't just play a bunch of tall, athletic dudes. None of them can dribble. Again, man, it just really makes me wonder, what Darvin, it's not 04 anymore, man. We're not in 60 we're not playing 67 to 66 point games, man, where the Pistons are just knocking guys out like that. It's not 04 anymore. We got to get with the times, and we got to play smarter basketball. It does make me question his acumen a little bit, and this isn't the first time that he's made a really, really head-scratching lineup decision, man.
It is funny just because this makes me think about, I think last time we had Jason on, you were talking about, imagine the defensive lineup the Lakers can deploy if they put Reddish and Vando and Torrey and all out there with LeBron and AD.
Start everybody, man.
No, I was literally they would never play that lineup, Logan. That lineup's unplayable. And then 2 weeks later, that is their starting five. It's just ridiculous. It's just bad process. Okay, let's talk about another fun game that we saw over in the West, Warriors-Nuggets, Logan. Denver wins this one. They've now won 5 straight after a little bit of, not a full-on skid, but just underwhelming few weeks of regular season basketball. What's impressed you most about Denver reeling off 5 straight here?
Just that everybody's back healthy and back together. It's everything, man. I love the Nuggets. I can't sing their praises enough, and I can't really pinpoint to you anything new about the Nuggets that's remarkable. Murray and Jokic are doing their thing. Everything is working well together. They're monstrous in transition. They're playing great defense. Everything's clicking. It just feels like the Nuggets are back on track the way they were in the playoffs last year. The starting 5 is insane, man. I think they're plus 18 together. In plus minus, it's ridiculous during this stretch. And Jokic isn't even leading the team in points. Jamal is at 24 a night, 6 boards, 5 assists. Aaron Gordon is playing phenomenally, doing his role to perfection. It's really just the starting 5 that's going to work, and it's Jokic dominating again. We talk about the Nuggets a lot. I don't really have anything new on Denver. It's the same Nuggets starting 5 going out there and dominating the way that we expected them to, and it's damn, man, it's encouraging. We just talked about the Ravens and the Chiefs, and we talked about the Lakers and how inconsistent great teams can be. The Nuggets are just consistently great. It's like the sun came out, man. The Nuggets balled out again. It's really good to see great teams walk in every night and just handle business. They are just consistently, night to night, the best team in basketball, and they've got consistently the best superstar night to night in the world.
That's interesting. I haven't been blown away by the level the Nuggets have been at. I mean, they've been sort of skating by in some of these games against not so great teams. Beat Toronto, Brooklyn, Charlotte, all by single digits. And Jokic hasn't been his best. I mean, he hasn't been the best player in the world in these last 2 weeks or whatever. I absolutely believe that is his title, but the level he's been playing at versus the level of guy that Joel Embiid has been playing at. But to me, the encouraging thing is you talk about seeing the whole starting 5 back out there. Specifically, it's Jamal Murray being healthy again and being himself. You mentioned in this win streak, he's 24 a night on 61% true shooting. And against the Dubs, I mean, he really put the game on ice. He hits a tough turnaround and sort of a bailout possession. He hits a big-time pull-up 3 buckets that create separation in those last 3 minutes. Against Brooklyn, it was a similar situation. They're neck and neck in that game. He's got a couple tough buckets in the 4th. And up to that point, he had missed a bunch of games with injury, and even when he was healthy, he had been 18 points per game on 57% true shooting. He had been regular season Jamal Murray, who we know for some reason is never going to be an all-star in his entire career. In these last 5 games, he's looked more like postseason Jamal Murray. The Jamal that we count on being at that level when it comes to playoff time, but we hadn't seen all that consistently this year. And it's just huge for Denver winning in those closing situations, having another guy who is a high-level threat with the ball in his hands, and when Jokic isn't at his A game, when he's not just automatically carrying you, when he isn't dominating every single possession, having a player who is like, yep, that's a top 20 guy, that's not just an 18-point-per-game score on average efficiency, that's big. But mostly it is just Denver taking care of business, doing what they do. The Warriors, though, Logan, even after losing this game, have flipped the switch, and they've had an easier stretch of their schedule as of late, but they're 5-1 over their last 6. They were very competitive in this game. How convinced are you by their turnaround? Doing this all, by the way, without Draymond, who's still suspended, of course.
Yeah, and I think we saw this coming. We talked about with Jason about the Warriors skid and how we all were kind of just waiting on them to find their footing, to get back to where they were. Now, this hasn't been title changing. I don't look at this and change my odds and say, oh, the Warriors are going to make a run. But again, without Draymond, it is encouraging. Klay has played so much better, and when it comes to Klay playing better, it's literally just one thing. Is his shot falling or not? Like you say, dude, every time, because I hear so many different takes on Klay every game. And my dad's so funny. He'll watch Klay miss one jump shot, and he goes, oh, yeah, man, Klay. That's what he's been doing. And I'm like, dude, it's one shot, Jimmy. I was like, 2 minutes ago, he hit back-to-back threes or something. You can get so reactionary with Klay because of the difficulty of shot. Great shooters. Klay can't create separation. He can't create off the bounce. He hasn't, like you've said, Carson, post-injury, Klay just takes bad shots. Are they going in or not? Klay's capable of making them. He's been making them more recently. Andrew Wiggins had hit a massive skid, is finally playing back up to expectation, knocking down open looks, attacking closeouts. So those two guys are not playing at the absolute bottom barrel of where they were, but also, oh my gosh, I've been blown away by the bench. I thought in the offseason, Carson, we talked a lot about what the Warriors did this offseason. We thought they crushed it. We love the acquisitions they made. B-Pod, TJD, can Kuminga and Moody play into their own and, improve? I've been blown away by the play of all of those guys. TJD can really hold his own, I think, against certain matchups. I was wondering, is he too small? Will he be able to handle guys? And again, I think that's in bigger matchups. I wonder if he'll be able to be played hypothetically against a big Zubats, Jokic. In those matchups, I don't know, but he can hold his own against other guys, and he's been pivotal off the bench. Kuminga rebounding, playing tough defense, playing physical, getting downhill and looking for more shots down in the paint. B-Pod playing complementary basketball. I think the Warriors absolutely crushed this offseason. Yeah. And I think their bench has improved tenfold, dude. Those guys are home run picks to me and just work. Podziemski especially, man, how he rebounds. Yeah. He's a tall guard, great at moving the ball, and great at playing as a two guard in any line. I just think he's a great complementary piece. It's like
totally.
I hate to compare him to another white guard, but it's like Reeves-esque almost, and where he finds himself positionally. He doesn't need the ball in his hands, but when he has it, he makes good decisions. Everything is coming together more, and I just wonder, Carson, you tell me if you think I'm wrong or not, does Dre hurt the chemistry of this team at all? I just wonder. I don't know, man. Is he a headache? I don't know. I mean, like, they've been playing so much better without him. It just makes me wonder if you add a volatile variable back to the equation. I know Dre is Mr. Warrior, and he is going to be important to a title run, but I don't know. The team really feels like they're clicking and getting back into sync now.
My prediction is he comes back and he's figured shit out and he's not getting thrown out of games willy-nilly anymore. I just can't see a suspension, consequences of this scale, missing multiple weeks of a regular season, him just ignoring that. He's too smart. He's too experienced. And I still think he's very good for this basketball team, especially if they do make a move, bring another front court guy. We've seen now they don't have to be married to Looney at the 5. He's taken a step back with a more athletic 5 in TJD, and if they can make a move for a Lauri Markkanen and they're bigger in the front court, then you can try some of those Dre at the 5 lineups. Like, he just gives them so many options. He's just too good at basketball for me to view him as any sort of negative. But, I mean, this has been a super encouraging stretch, and this has been exactly what I've been optimistic about with the Warriors all year. The reason that I liked them a lot more than last year's team early in the year, the depth is so much better, and it's not even the bench anymore, Logan. I mean, Pods and Kuminga are starting.
Yeah.
And they are balling. Pods to me is the most impressive, and the Reeves comparison is interesting. I think that Pods is a guy who does more of the little things. I think he has less probably high-end offensive skill as a creator. I don't think he's as good as Austin Reeves, but he's just everywhere. You see it in this game, right? He's jumping passing lanes. He's forcing turnovers. He's just so much more dialed in on the offensive glass. If you fall asleep, he will attack the boards so aggressively. And then he's going to knock down his shots. He's going to make smart reads within the flow of the offense in transition. Such a creative passer. I mean, just an awesome, awesome basketball player. Exactly the kind of guy you hope to land with the 20th pick if you're a team that wants to go out and win now. And TJD has been playing more than Looney in this streak that they're on. And he's giving you 11 and 9 on 73% from the field. And it's just a dimension that the Warriors have never really had or haven't had since JaVale McGee. And it's what they hoped Wiseman could be. What Wiseman sucked. Having a real lob threat, a real athlete at the 5, a dude who runs the floor hard. And he's not as big as JaVale was, right? He's not a 7-footer. He's 6'9". He's not as big as Wiseman. But it's still a dimension that Kevon Looney just doesn't bring to the table. Now, he's still totally outmatched guarding a 5 like Nikola Jokic, but really, who isn't? Like, he can protect the rim at a solid level. He moves reasonably well in pick and roll. I think he was another home run, as we said at the time. And then Kuminga, maybe he's still a guy who is a trade piece because maybe he doesn't fit perfectly in this system and you won't get the best version of him in Golden State on this timeline. But, I mean, at the very least, he's increasing his trade value, and he's playing legitimately very well. 14 a night on 67% true shooting in this run. And he's just making the most of his athletic advantages, but he's a bit more under control than he's previously been. I think he's a little bit better with some of the touch shot making. His drives are a little bit more diverse. But most importantly, I mean, he's going at people. He is posting dudes up. He's been an 84th percentile post-up scorer. He's cutting really well. He's running hard in transition. It's just everything that you think, all right, what does the best version of Kuminga look like? He has been that. And then when Wiggs and Clay are coming around, this is the team that I'm like, yeah, that's a legit playoff squad. They're not a title contender because they are still lacking in star creation alongside Steph, star offensive talents, and that size and athleticism in the front court against the really great teams. But, I mean, in a game where Steph sucked and Clay sucked, and they got an unfavorable whistle, they were right in it against the Denver Nuggets, who we both view as the title favorite, and they are still outscoring opposing teams by 8 points per 100 possessions without Steph Curry, man. I mean, that margin, we talked about how rare it's been that they've won the minutes without him at all. I think it's only twice in his career by very small margins. They're like an elite team when he's off the floor. They're getting outscored when he's on the floor. And that's not on him. That's on how bad Clay and Wiggins and some of the other stars have been, Looney struggles and all that. But I'm just so encouraged by that still. I'm so encouraged. The Warriors, to me, are a top 5 team out west. And when we look at some of the teams that have big issues, I'm encouraged by the solutions that they have because the depth is so good, because I do believe those key players are starting to play better and will get better. They will get Draymond back. They do have the pieces to make a trade that could elevate them into another conversation. I'm just really encouraged by what we're seeing from this Warriors team. This was the vision, and now that they've gotten to a lighter stretch of their schedule and just everybody's found more of a rhythm, they're playing the right guys, it's been really fun.
As a Warriors fan, I know you have mentioned Lauri Markkanen. We talked to Zach LaVine. Are there any other big-time guys or other marginal moves that you think that you'd like to see the Dubs make at the deadline?
Big-time guys, I think if you targeted one of the Raptors, if it's OG Anunoby or Pascal Siakam, I really want them to get a big forward who does unlock those small ball lineups because they just can't play those right now with Draymond at the 5. But if you can add size and athleticism in the front court with real offensive skill, that'd be great. Now, Markkanen to me is the best because he is by far the best fit. Him in this motion system, I mean, it's very similar to what the Jazz already do. Tons of off-ball screens, tons of moving to open space. That's where Markkanen is at his best. If he gets switches generated by an off-ball screen, he can attack those mismatches. And then defensively, he's not great, but he's also not a guy you're going to consistently expose. And he is a 7-footer, right? So, I mean, he's adding size. He's adding rebounding value. So, I think they just need to do something. And I become increasingly convinced that Chris Paul does not really matter for this basketball team. I really liked the fit at first. And it's not that I hate the fit. It's just if you're going to pay somebody $30 million, you can get more out of it than a guy who helps steady your second unit when your second unit's already balling. Like, I think these dudes are good with or without Chris Paul. Pods is playing better basketball than Chris Paul. Like, I just don't think they need him. And that's a contract that, if they can attach in this stuff, they should, along with a couple of young players and picks so that there's a real asset. It depends on what contract they have to match because Markkanen's contract, they don't need CP. Markkanen's making $18 million. It's just going to depend on who exactly they target. But I think CP is definitely movable from their perspective. Last thing that I think was a real storyline from this game that I'll touch on quickly is the officiating, how Jokic was officiated. He got 18 free throws in this game, and it wasn't from a bunch of hard drives to the bucket where he's getting mauled. A lot of it was away from the ball. A lot of it was non-shooting situations. And Steve Kerr came out and basically said this was disgusting. The officials ruined the game. A lot of people shared that same sentiment. I thought that it was too favorable a whistle for Jokic. I thought that some of those situations, right, if he gets bumped curling around a screen, you don't necessarily need to call that foul. There was also a situation where I thought might not have been a shooting foul. They argued that he was in the shooting motion, but he was really facing away from the basket. Like, there were probably 4 to 6 free throws granted there where I would have said, okay, yeah, that's probably a foul by the books, but it's pretty ticky-tack. It's certainly not a call that Jokic usually gets. And so I didn't really like that. I'm just generally opposed to officials deciding games, as we have discussed before. I did think that it also spoke to a real issue that the Warriors have, though, which is size in that front court. Because if your defenders are at physical advantages all game and it's rookie TJD or Kevon Looney, they probably are going to foul a lot. And they did foul him a lot. Like, whether it should have been 18 free throws or 14 free throws, Jokic was going to eat at the line in this game no matter what. And they just had no prayer in single coverage. Like, Jokic, his shot was totally off in this game. Like, his touch shot making, it wasn't what we're used to at all. But you see in that fourth quarter, I mean, he gets Looney a couple times, and it's just barbecue chicken both times that they do defend him without fouling. And the Warriors have struggled to defend without fouling all year. That's another problem that they've had. So I didn't like it. I did think that Jokic was selling contact. There was contact there. But again, in non-shooting situations, non-drives, you just don't need to call that every time to me. But what's funny is I've seen people say Jokic is the biggest foul baiter in the game. It's just like, settle down. Like, the two superstars who have always gotten the least favorable whistle are Steph and Jokic, because Jokic plays a crazy physical style of basketball, but he has these overwhelming advantages because he's so big and so strong. You're allowed to hack him normally. You're allowed to maul him, and they won't give him the benefit of the doubt. Just scored 30 points per game, I mean, over the last 3 playoffs, and he's always between 6 and 7 free throws a game. Like, settle down. It's one game from his perspective, but in terms of the league, in terms of how officiating goes broadly, yeah, I don't like dudes walking into 25 points in a game like that.
Well, and the way Kerr phrased it, too, like you said, I don't know if this is the game to point fingers at because, again, I think Kerr needs to look in the mirror and take a look at his bench for situations like this against a guy like Jokic. But he said it exactly right. He talked about, guys BSing their way to the foul line, and it encourages it. It encourages players to go out and make plays. And that's just not basketball, man. Refs need to put their foot down and say, like, we're not going to reward you guys for doing this. And maybe, I don't know if the answer is, what's the word? Fining guys, for foul baiting or what there's to just stop giving them the whistle. I don't know.
I don't even think there was a single situation where Jokic foul baited in this game, though. I think, and it's a subtle distinction. Flailing, selling contact, flopping, that's different from foul baiting. I would argue what a guy like Joel Embiid or Austin Reeves do, right, where they are deliberately trying to catch you in the cookie jar. They are not putting up a legitimate shot, right? They are basically just trying to get you to reach that little bit, and then they're just going to come up or the rip through, stuff like that, where it's like, all I'm trying to do here is get to the line. That, to me, is foul baiting. What Jokic was doing is like, hey, you're fouling me, and I'm going to dramatize the contact to make sure that the official sees. Either way, I don't like it, but, I think it's a little bit of a different thing.
I think there is a difference to make. the flailing part of it's exactly like you said. Is it a natural motion into a shot? Are you attempting a shot, or are you trying to? I think the solution is simple. You stop giving the guys the calls, and they'll stop doing it.
Yeah, very true. And I think that they could have done that in this game. Jokic is definitely not the face of manipulating officials in the league, but I didn't like this game. And I do think that he relied on that because he knew that he didn't have his shot, and he was sort of just like waltzing through this game. Like, I mean, he made good decisions as a playmaker and all that, but this was far from Jokic's A game, and he was able to still end up with a Jokic-looking stat line in terms of raw production in a way that he normally is not. All I want for the holidays this year is some NBA action. This week, new customers can score 150 instantly in bonus bets just for betting $5. An instant dub just for you.
Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code NERDS. New customers can get 150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on basketball, only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code NERDS. The crown is yours.
Let's talk about another matchup out west, Logan, which was Suns-Mavericks. Phoenix lost this one. They've now lost 5 of their last 6, 9 of their last 12 games. Are the Suns cooked, Logan?
Yeah, maybe, man. It's tough. You know, Beal goes down, and that to me felt like the straw that broke the camel's back. In a way, I felt like it really kind of took the air out of Phoenix. You know, Phoenix for a while now. When are we finally going to get the trio together? When are we going to get all 3 of these guys together? We can actually see them fully healthy with the bench unit. And then Beal suffers another ankle injury, and we don't know when he's going to get back. I mean, it was really, really deflating. So there's a couple issues. 1, the health concerns with all these guys. 2, I don't think the bench is extremely complimentary. Yeah, you've got guys who can offensively do things, but there's not really a great point of attack defender, or defense is the key word to me. And, like, there's no real great defenders here on the interior or on the outside around these 3 guys. So we got injuries. We got the defensive issues. And then 3, it really is to me at the end of the games, our chief fundamental concern with the guys coming together here. Yeah. It's a lot of stagnation. It's not a lot of flowing, free-flowing, easy offense. The Warriors play beautiful basketball. The Nuggets play beautiful basketball manufacturing these shots. The Boston Celtics, at their absolute apex when everything is going right, play this beautiful flowing basketball. And the Suns, in crunch time, when the going gets tough, you just see it on display. A lot of settling for mid-range jump shots, just a lot of settling for tough jumpers late in games when you need dynamic, reliable, manufactured offense. It's like it's something that Jason hampers on in playoff basketball that I love. If there's an action working in a game, and if you're playing the game too, you realize this, you're going to keep going to that action. And if the defense keeps giving you the same look where you're going to keep going back to that action, it's going to work. The way to switch on that on defense or offense is to be dynamic. Okay, well, if I hedged on this screen this time, maybe I go under it. Maybe I go for the ball and we blitz him and we double team him off of this screen. You see what I'm saying? It just, different looks. It makes it harder to defend fundamentally. Football. Oh, we've been throwing the ball. We're going to hand it off here. And then it sets up the play action, right? It's deception. Deception sets up everything, and being dynamic in late game scenarios helps you create easy offense because you're not just giving them the same look. Well, if KD's going to get a screen and dribble into a 2-dribble pull-up from the elbow, that's not super dynamic. It can just lull you into bad offense, and I feel like the stars don't really gel together. Again, we haven't seen a ton of games where they can work together to find how they mesh together. The defense and the complementary pieces aren't great, and then you just worry about health. Yes, if I had to predict right now with the state of all the other teams out west, with the Clippers hitting their groove, with the Warriors seeming to hit their groove, with the Nuggets doing Nuggets things, with the Lakers' baseline floor of LeBron and AD, the Suns at this point don't seem like they have a chance of making a playoff run. And and reportedly, day by day, Kevin Durant is getting more and more frustrated. And that's the scenario. We talked a lot about Carson, Luka, and Kyrie maybe not figuring it out, and maybe Luka leaving town. The big issue is the repercussions of a Kevin Durant-Bradley Beal trade where KD wants out, Beal wants out, D-Book wants out, and then you have no draft picks for the next decade. that is the potential nightmare scenario that we could see, that we potentially see forming for Phoenix. I would not pick them to do anything. I don't really have any faith or any eggs in the Suns' basket, so to speak, right now.
Yeah, this has been the worst case scenario, basically, for all of the issues that we would have predicted for this team. One of which would have been health, right? Are we going to see the big three out there in a playoff run when it matters? Not looking good. Not looking good when we've seen like fractions of 2 games with all of them out there. Beal has barely been available at all. Depth, we talked about how we both liked what they did with limited resources. I have liked it less as this year has progressed. I think it is a big issue. When you talk about them lacking guys who can defend, I mean, the dudes who do have those skill sets, Okogie cannot hit a shot. Jordan Goodwin cannot hit a shot. And so then you have guys like Grayson Allen and Eric Gordon who are solid offensive players, really good shooters, upgrades from who they had on the wings offensively last year, but they're not two-way difference makers. Some of the moves on the margins, like Keita Bates-Diop, I thought, boy, that was a good value add. I've been disappointed by him. Nurk, I know you liked early in the year, but I just think limited athlete on offense, inefficient scorer because he doesn't bring that easy finishing on the interior, and then defensively, he's just going to get exposed. So regardless of what they did in terms of value adds, the fact that they did deplete all their resources to go in on this big three means the supporting cast gap between them and the actual contenders is huge, bro. It is massive. I mean, when you're talking about what the Nuggets have, forget about it. When you're talking about, I mean, even what the Clippers have, Logan, I like significantly more with the Zubats and the Terrence Manns of the world. Like, you just go up and down. The Suns might not be a top 8 team in the West right now, bro. Like, the Kings are just consistently playing good basketball. The Thunder are a really, really good team. Luka singularly is doing more to carry his team, and I think actually does have better complementary supporting pieces. And then really it is the just entire team defense here. Like, nobody could do anything with Luka in single coverage, and then they started trapping in the home stretch, and he just picked them apart. Their defensive personnel just isn't good enough. Physically, they don't have the athletic attributes, and then the IQ isn't there either. Shout out Chimezie Metu, who like almost had a 20-20 in this game and busted his ass on the glass and like, I mean, you know, played well overall, but defensively, there's some situations where he's painfully out of position. He's in way too deep a drop. He takes a dumb gamble on a double. Like, against Luka Doncic, man, you're just going to get killed for that every single time. And that's what you mentioned with the stagnant offense. It's all on Book and KD. They turn the ball over. They don't take the easiest shots. And for this to be the game that KD plays after those reports came out about, oh, KD frustrated, things aren't working out, and he goes and lays 16 points and 6 turnovers and is really absent for this entire game, it's not great. And the thing with the Suns is I see real problems here that don't have real solutions. The Lakers we talked about have solutions, right? Darvin Ham, stop doing really dumb stuff, okay? LeBron can slap the shit out of him. He'll figure it out. Hey, guys, just play harder, right? And they have the assets to make a move that can address some of their roster issues. The Warriors, right? Hey, Clay and Wiggins, play like the basketball players we know you are. Draymond, come back. Maybe they can make a move. There are solutions there. The Suns, you're 20th in defensive rating. Okay, you're not going to win a title being that bad defensively. Bradley Beal comes back, you get even worse. I see no path to change that because their good defenders are largely unplayable offensively. You add Beal, you improve offensively, right? Guys can't load up on Book and KD in the same way, but not by enough to offset that serious defensive limitation. And they're still not complementary enough skill sets offensively. And why would we even expect that big three to be healthy? And if your stars aren't bought all the way in, if KD is pissed, if KD is mentally checked out, then as the kids say, Logan, it's Jover. And I think that is where the Suns are headed. Like, they weren't my favorite team coming into this year, but I had them third in the West. Now, no way, dude. This is not a team I would pick to win a playoff series. Out of all of the teams that may have big, shiny stars on paper, but have mediocre records in the West, and there's a whole pack of them, I am most concerned by the Suns right now because they have the least clear path to progress, even though they've been missing Bradley Beal, this member of their big three, because I'm telling you, he doesn't fix their key problems.
I completely agree. And Carson, I think it's a fundamental issue that we're seeing. There's a real distinct pattern to me with really rich owners coming into owning teams and then making really, really costly organizational franchise changing mistakes. Ishbia, and I get it. You made all kinds of money. You want to come in immediately. I'm not going to hate on a guy for swinging for the fence or making moves, but I think there's a lot of examples. Ishbia going in on KD, going in on Beal. I got this money. I bought this team. I want this team to be good right now. Denver Broncos, Walmart people, buy in. Let's make this trade. Let's go all in. Let's get Russell Wilson. Let's get this Super Bowl. Clippers, Steve Ballmer, always going in for superstars. Kawhi, PG, Harden. Again, results may vary, but what we've seen is that these guys are really impatient and want it immediately, and sometimes it can be more costly to do these things. There's more the Panthers, David Tepper, comes from Wall Street. Guess what? He flexed his muscle. He said, no, I don't want C.J. Stroud. Oh, all you football guys want C.J. Stroud?
Yeah.
I want Bryce Young. I know better. I made all this money. I just think it's an important thing that maybe you should consult the basketball heads, the basketball people, before making these kind of moves. There's nobody that knows the sport better than the people that are going to be in your organization. And I'm not putting this all on Ishbia's shoulders, but there should be a chain of command and a more thought process to the cohesion and the complementary pieces and the ultimate repercussions that could come if this doesn't work out. And again, I think this could be if KD's checked out, their goose is cooked, Carson. It's Jover.
Yeah. It's Jover. It's a good point broadly that you make about some of these owners just having a short-sighted, hyper-aggressive, super confident because they've probably done really well elsewhere and they think that they know everything because of that. I do think that that's a real thing. When it comes specifically to the Suns situation, though, it's like Ishbia walked into sort of a sinking ship, right? The Suns had gone from a team that was in the finals and then won 64 games, and then it's, oh boy, the regression has hit hard. We've lost some of our depth. CP has taken a step back. DeAndre Ayton has remarkably regressed. That was a team that was like scraping to be above 500 last year, Logan. And so when they brought in KD, I thought, boy, this really does heighten their ceiling. And then they got Bradley Beal giving up like nothing really painful. So he walked into a bad situation. And we can look now and say, oh, going all in on KD, going all in on Beal, like that was the problem. But it really wasn't. The problem is that he started with a broken roster.
You don't think so? I mean, if he had...
What would they be if they hadn't traded for KD at all?
No. That is not the issue. That is not the issue. That is not the move that I take issue with. The move I take issue with is the move to get Bradley Beal when if you could have found, and I know you have to make the money work too with the Chris Paul contract. That's what makes it so difficult.
Yeah.
If you could have somehow freed up some of that money to have cap space to go and sign, and again, I know the free agent class, it's a bad situation. I'm not saying that it was a bad situation from the jump, but I think the misstep was getting Beal instead of trying to retool the depth pieces and getting more complementary assets around those guys.
I don't think they were in a good position to do that. Nobody who is a serious basketball team is going to trade like valuable role players of theirs for Chris Paul. I mean, Chris Paul was viewed as a negative asset. He's a big contract heading downhill, and a team like the Wizards, right? I mean, well, they managed to turn him into Jordan Poole. Very impressive. But I was impressed that they were able to get Beal for what they did. And I never thought it was perfect. I never thought it made them a title contender. Like, I never thought, oh my God, this team is going to beat the Nuggets. But I thought it gave them more of a shot than going out there with CP and that roster would have. Like, I agree. Like, in a perfect world, I am 100% with you. Really good two-way wing who isn't a Bradley Beal level name, right? If they could have gotten KCP instead of Bradley Beal, 1,000 times out of 1,000 you do that. I just don't think a move like that was on the table. So I think that this has been a rough situation, and they have tried to make the most of it. But I think, honestly, I was overly optimistic even about what they could accomplish. And I absolutely believe there will be a run this year where, oh boy, the big three is healthy. And, I mean, we already saw it, right? When they were playing some crappy teams earlier in the year, they were reeling off wins. Like, it's still going to suck to have to try to stop KD and Book. But, I mean, when the guys around them are this limited, when the defensive ceiling is this low, we know that it can be done. We just saw it happen last year. I think we're going to see it happen again this year. Last thing we're going to touch on here, Logan, and this is a very long show, but there was a lot of sports action on Christmas. Merry Christmas, guys. Hope you like the extra long podcast. Here's our gift. Knicks Bucks. Jalen Brunson went crazy, dropped 38 points, delivered a Christmas victory to the city of New York. shout out to him. I mean, we are longtime Brunson enthusiasts here at Nerd Sesh, but that was sort of the culmination of a broader discourse that we haven't weighed in on that I think is interesting. What's been your take on this entire thing going on with Becky Hammon saying that the Knicks don't have a sort of like 1A best guy on a title team guy, and then everybody freaking out about that, her like having to issue a statement? What do you make of all of that?
I mean, Jalen Brunson in a realistic world probably isn't the best player on a championship winning team. I think Jalen Brunson could be a number 2 on a championship winning team. It's within expectations. I think I don't take exact issue with Becky saying that because I don't disagree with her comments, and I have immense respect for Becky Hammon. For those that don't know, now she's a head coach of the Las Vegas Aces for a long time, was an assistant with the San Antonio Spurs, and was one of the, sole female coaches in basketball. So I have immense respect for her and her basketball career as well. I believe she played.
Yeah, she did.
I don't think she's wrong. I think to be critical of Brunson about the Knicks situation is just a little weird to me, though. I mean, Jalen Brunson is far from the problem in New York, and I don't know. I could never be critical of Jalen Brunson because he's just flat out one of my favorite players to watch.
She wasn't critical of him, Logan, and this is a key point. She really wasn't. She just said they don't have that 1A sort of guy.
And they don't. I mean, I think to have an uproar about he just isn't. If you had swapped KD for Julius Randle, maybe the Knicks have something. You know what I mean? But shout out Brunson for coming back. And I think it's just, would you even consider her comments negative? Do you think that's a negative comment about Brunson?
No, Logan. And that's the entire point here. To me.
Oh, wait. It's because she's a woman with an opinion. I think that's it. I think that's it.
Yeah, dude, I think that's a pretty big part of this. I think if a guy said this, people wouldn't bat an eye. Like, I'm dead serious. Sexism in sports discourse is so prevalent. This is a completely uncontroversial comment. To say that Jalen Brunson isn't the best guy on a title team, are you kidding me? Do you understand who the best guys on title teams have been throughout the course of NBA history? Literally just walk back. Nikola Jokic, back-to-back MVP. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Well, Steph Curry between the two of them. LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant. Like, go back through the entire scope of NBA history. The amount of times that the best player on the title team isn't a top 5 player in the league today is such a rarity. I mean, you have the Chauncey Billups. Like, that happens every few decades, right? Mm-hmm. It's so rare.
Probably won't ever happen again.
Maybe it could. But it requires putting like 4 top 25 players on the same team like the Pistons had. And I love Jalen. I'm high on Jalen. I think he's a top 20 guy. And we talked after last year's playoff run. I prefer him over a guy like Donovan Mitchell in a playoff setting. I think there's more shot variety there. I think it's very valuable how he can slow a game down and always get to his spots. I prefer him to a Ja Morant for the same reason. Probably prefer him to a Trae Young because he's a better pure shot maker. That's close, but in a playoff setting, I think that's so valuable. But this, to me, is just the epitome of modern NBA discourse, man. It is the deliberate misunderstanding of other people's points. It's not just saying, oh, yeah, she's right. Jalen Brunson isn't a top 5 player. He's not even a top 10 player. Like, yeah, he's not going to be the best guy on a title team. It's taking that and saying, wait, women say Jalen Brunson bad? Jalen Brunson not bad. Jalen Brunson good. Jalen Brunson the man. Love Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson Nick. Love Knicks. You suck. Hate. Jalen Brunson 38 said he couldn't. Little man said little man couldn't good. Little man can good. Little man good real hard. Little man do good. Little man good job. And that's just my takeaway from this. It's stupid. It's asinine. And there is a conversation going on about the comments she made that really has nothing to do with the comments that she made. And that just sucks. And that's, I feel like, 80% of NBA discourse is people deliberately misunderstanding what other people are saying so they can be outraged about it, and then just fabricating points of their own, deliberately misconveying the truth to serve whatever agenda they have. And I'm off that. I think that sucks. Speak truth to power.
Sexism's freaking whack, man.
Word. Now that's a bar. Well, that's going to do it for us here, folks. The special Christmas edition of Nerd Sesh leaves you with the message, sexism is bad, and Jalen Brunson is good. Jalen Brunson is good. We're big Jalen Brunson fans. Logan, 4 years ago, we were singing his praises. You made a YouTube video about him. It was one of the first we ever did almost 3 years ago now. So let's just be serious. Let's just be serious. All right, that's going to do it for us, guys. If you want more Nerd Sesh content, you can always listen to the full show across all audio platforms, and you can watch on YouTube. That is the Nerd Sesh YouTube page now. You can also follow us across social media, TikTok and Instagram at Nerd Sesh, Twitter at Nerd_Sesh. You can join our Discord at the link tree across our social media bios if you want to just talk NBA, NFL with us, be part of our community. And you can check us out on Cameo if you want to request any custom messages from the nerds, and find our merch at thevolume.com, also in our link tree. So with that, as always, appreciate you guys. I've been Carson Brabber.
I have been Logan Camden.
And this was Nerd Sesh.